For this next example, I see that I'm dividing, so that's going to narrow it down to a couple of possibilities. I notice that I have the same base. This 5 on top would have an exponent of 1, and then I have a 5 to the 1/3 on the bottom. So if we look up here, we can see that the one that deals with quotients or dividing and has the same base is the quotient of powers. And when we use that rule, it says that we just subtract our exponents. So let's do that. We'll make a note that this is quotient of powers. We're going to rewrite this with a single base of 5 instead of in fraction form. And now we will use quotient of powers, which says subtract the exponents. So my exponent in the numerator is 1, and in the denominator is 1/3. So this will simplify to 5 to the 2/3 power. These next two examples, 5 and 6, are also dividing, so I know I'm going to be using one of those two division properties. And I'm going to tell you right now that these two examples are very similar to each other. In fact, they're going to use the same steps. So I'm going to do number 5 with you, and then I'm going to ask that you do number 6 by yourself. And we'll go ahead and note the properties are related to both of them. So here's what I notice on this first one. I have different bases, but I have the same exponent. If I focus just on what's on the inside of this parentheses, I'm going to deal with that first. I can already see that I'm probably going to be using the power of a power at some point. I have something raised to an exponent, and then outside I have it raised to an exponent, but I want to simplify what's inside first. So let's take a look at our properties, and the one that stands out to me is this one, the power of a quotient, but in reverse, because I already have two separate pieces with exponents written, and so I'm going to rewrite this form, go backwards into this form, and then simplify from there. So let's take a look at that. I can rewrite the inside as 42/6 and raised to the 1/3 power. Now I still have that 2 on the outside, but 42/6 is 7, so 7 to the 1/3 power, and then the 2. So I've used my power of a quotient in reverse, and now, as I mentioned, we can use the power of a power rule, which says that we multiply. So 7 to the 1/3 times 2 power, and that will simplify to 7 to the 2/3. Go ahead and try number 6 and then come back here and see how you did. All right, the first thing that I did is I went ahead and made a note. I said these as we went along, but I'm using the power of a quotient in reverse and the power of a power. That's what I used on number 5, and we're going to do the same thing on number 6. We're going to rewrite the inside of the parentheses as a single fraction raised to an exponent of 1/2, so 20 divided by 5 raised to the 1/2 power, and then raised to the 3rd power. I know that 20/5 is 4, and so 4 to the 1/2 to the 3rd. Remember that our powers multiply, so 1/2 times 3, and that's going to give me 3/2, so 4 raised to the 3/2 power. I'm going to give you a little hint here. We can actually simplify this a little bit more, and this is common when we end up with an improper fraction. We have a bigger number on the top than on the bottom. So if we raise 4 to the 3rd power and then take the square root of that, we have 64. 4 to the 3rd is 64, and the square root of 64 is actually 8. So the final, most simplified form for this particular problem is actually just going to be a plain old number 8. So we definitely simplified it a lot from what we started with here.